You know, the story of this revolutionary leader, Patrice Lumumba, it doesn't actually begin in the past. It starts with something that happened just recently, a really shocking event that kind of rips open a dark chapter of history. We're going to explore his life, his legacy, and the brutal forces that, well, tried to erase him completely. So just picture a formal state ceremony. You've got government officials, a grieving family, but they're not there to receive a body for a proper burial. No, they're receiving something much, much smaller. I'm not kidding. A single tooth in its own specially made casket is all that is left of the man who led his country to freedom. It's a detail so bizarre, it almost sounds like it's made up, but it's not. So this single tooth, it just raises this huge question, right? To understand its story, we have to go back. We have to understand the man himself and the powerful forces that conspired not just to kill him, but to literally erase him from history. Okay, so let's rewind. Our story really begins in the Belgian Congo, right at the height of colonial rule. And it starts with a young man who actually dared to imagine a totally different future for his people. So this is Patrice Lumumba. He went from being a postal clerk to becoming the face of Congolese independence. He wasn't just another politician. He was a true symbol of hope for a whole continent that was trying to shake off the chains of colonialism. And this really gets to the heart of what he believed. I mean, at a time when so many movements were breaking apart along ethnic lines, Lumumba's party was all about national unity. He totally understood that you can't have real political freedom without economic freedom, without controlling the Congo's incredible mineral wealth. This vision, it all led to this one single moment that would define his time as prime minister and, well, probably seal his fate. Independence Day, 1960. So, try to picture the scene. The Belgian king gets up and gives this deeply patronizing speech celebrating the whole colonial project that had led to the deaths of millions. Lumumba wasn't even on the schedule to speak, but he just couldn't let that be the last word. He stepped right up to the microphone and spoke truth to power. And this just shows you the impact. For the Congolese in that room, and for Africans all over the world, it was electrifying. But for King Baudouin and the Western diplomats sitting there, it was a massive insult. He had broken the unwritten rule, you're supposed to be grateful to your former masters. That one defiant speech set off a chain reaction. Lumumba had been prime minister for less than 2 weeks, and already the clock was ticking on his removal. I mean, just look at how quickly it all fell apart. Within days of independence, the country was in total chaos. Belgium sent troops back in, and the super wealthy Katanga province, backed by Belgian mining companies, just broke away. Lumumba's whole dream of a unified nation was collapsing right before his eyes. And here's the absolute crucial part. When the UN basically refused to help him stop the secession, Lumumba made a decision that would seal his fate. He turned to the Soviet Union for help. Now, remember, this is the middle of the Cold War. To the US and Belgium, this was a death sentence. They saw a potential communist controlling a gold mine of minerals, including the uranium for their atomic bombs, and they decided right then and there that he had to go. What happened next wasn't just a political assassination. It was a deliberate, absolutely brutal attempt to wipe a man and his memory right off the face of the earth. So, after being kicked out in a coup and captured, Lumumba was flown to the breakaway state of Katanga, basically into the hands of his worst enemies. There, he was tortured and then dragged out to a remote forest. His killers knew that a martyr's grave could become a shrine, a symbol. So they made sure there would be no grave. The whole point was total annihilation. Leave no trace, no evidence, no place for anyone to mourn. The goal was to make it as if Patrice Lumumba had never even existed at all. But the erasure wasn't perfect. In a final, just grotesque act of colonial arrogance, one of the Belgian officers who was overseeing the disposal of the body, he pocketed a single tooth as a souvenir of the crime, a trophy. And here he is. When you look at this photo, you can see the hope and the power of that moment of independence. It's almost impossible to square this image with the horrific fate that was waiting for him just over 6 months later. After Lumumba was murdered, the man who led the coup against him, Mobutu Sese Seko, would go on to rule the Congo as a brutal pro-Western dictator for over 3 decades, just pillaging the country's wealth. The vision of a united, sovereign Congo pretty much died with Lumumba. For decades, the full truth was just buried, but Lumumba's family and his supporters, they never, ever gave up the fight for answers. and for some kind of justice.
Just look at this timeline. It took almost 40 years for the truth to really come out in a book, which then led to a parliamentary inquiry. Belgium admitted moral responsibility, but notice, they stopped short of a full apology. Naming a square, returning the tooth, these have been really slow, symbolic steps on a very, very long road.
And this really gets to a critical point. Saying you regret something is not the same as taking responsibility. For a lot of people, until Belgium offers a formal apology for the assassination and for its entire brutal colonial history, justice just feels incomplete. Which leaves us with this one last big question. After decades of denial and secrets, does returning this single tooth represent a genuine moment of reckoning? Or is it maybe just a symbol, a way to close a dark chapter without ever fully confronting the crime at the center of it all?